orphan, and you'll help support a vulnerable child to have the education they've always dreamed of, so they can build a brighter future. You'll be feeding a hungry stomach and a hungry mind with knowledge that will last them a lifetime. That's the power of an education. Sponsor an orphan now with Islamic Relief.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everybody. This is your brother, Preacher Moss. Listen, I have a special announcement. December 17th. That's right, December 17th in Dearborn, Michigan. December 17th. I'm coming through with a special show of evening of comedy, jazz, and laughter, brothers and sisters. It's my special presentation, a gift to the Motor City. It's called, it sounded funny at the time. It's right here. Let me make sure it's spelled right. Yeah. It sounded funny at the time. Produced by my main man, Big Fresh, the Freaky. We're going to have an epic evening, and I'm asking everybody to come out. You know how we do, Detroit. I love you. You love me, man. Let's go show some love to one another. It's going to be cold probably on December 17th, but you know what? We're going to make it hot. Make sure it's going to be at the Fordson High Theater. Make sure you get your tickets early, because if you get them late, you're going to be outside. You're going to have to listen to the music and the joke from the glass. All right, brothers and sisters, you guys have been tremendous. Remember, December, live in Dearborn, Preacher Mars. It sounded funny at the time. Check it out. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everybody. This is your brother, Preacher Moss. Listen, I have a special announcement. December 17th. That's right, December 17th in Dearborn, Michigan.
Sorry about that, folks. You see why it needs a ton and wait. But let me start out by saying happy Thanksgiving to all the ShOUT Show family, ShOUT Show supporters, the soldiers, the people that make this show work all the time. I've always tried to encourage everybody, even though Thanksgiving has its, if you will, has its drawbacks historically. I think it's really important that people do celebrate family togetherness, the vitality of being able to get together, particularly around food, which is largely cultural and in some regards spiritual. So I do encourage that aspect. But I thought today would be interesting if, instead of me putting a turkey up on the screen, I thought it'd be interesting if maybe I put a Native American up on the screen for Happy Thanksgiving. You see, in the United States, the whole color area of being able to define narrative is interesting because it comes from a power structure which really works to define narrative that's not the wrong. So you'll have the situation and scenarios of people trying to tell African American story or the Latino story or the Native American story, and so on and so forth, the Muslim story. And I thought it was interesting if we could just back out just a little bit, because there's a wisdom in the strength and the presence and history of Native Americans here in the United States. Now, I'm going to be pretty brutally honest. A lot of times we haven't advocated for them. We haven't. The whole idea of, even in African American circles, that we suffered slavery. Yes, we did. But you have to stop and think about how many Native Americans were here in the United States before slavery ever arrived, and what was the treatment? In many regards, that treatment has been extremely harsh. In some regards, devastating. You see, the whole idea of the African American diaspora and things like that is the will of the people grew, understanding that even through oppression, even through slavery, that the will, the spirit, if you will, the esprit de corps, if you will, would lift the generations that came after the first slaves got here. That even in that space, you had a particular time in history where people weren't slaves their whole lives. You had indentured servants and things like that, and African Americans. And as it moved forward, the proliferation of Indian population suffered through smallpox and things like that, but it also suffered through a couple of very large scale deficiencies in just human spirit and government and fairness and equity. So we're going to talk about that a little bit today. We ain't going to go too long. I know y'all got your turkey and things like that. I appreciate you tuning in. I thought I was actually going to be here on by myself, and I didn't mind that. I'm going to shout out my Shout Out Show family in a minute. Let's go ahead and get started. We'll be right back. All right, we're going to shout out our Shout Out Show people that are faithful that come on and join us. Of course, we're going to start out with my main man, Altar for Sheep. We call him Mr. 6 o'clock, straight up, straight down. Wa alaikum assalam, rahmatullahi barakatuh. Dear beloved brother, our Canadian envoy to the show, we appreciate you, man, and your support. He says, well, and I say happy Thanksgiving to SOS family. Hope you're all enjoying the day with your family and loved ones. That's literally what it's all about. Altar, I really appreciate that. And shout out to the Siddiqui family down in Louisville, Kentucky. Dr. Siddiqui, a good friend of mine, a family member, has fallen ill, and we hope that Allah increase him and give him shifa and strengthen his family through this tough times. You know, we have health issues, and our parents get older, and our elders get older. You know, these things happen. So we're going to pray that, you know, Allah give them strength all the way around in the Siddiqui family. And shout out to my little brother, Wa alaikum assalam rahmatullahi barakatuh, who called me and allowed us to have a good laugh. What's going on, JT? I think he's fired up. Did you fry that turkey yet, man? He's going to be frying the turkey, brothers and sisters. So don't burn down the house, because fried turkeys are not covered under homeowner insurance. I just want you to know that. Fried under somebody else's carport. So peace and blessings. And let's shout out all the people. They're not here. We got to shout out Sister Satana. I'm going to tell y'all, she really soldiered through last week. She was not feeling well. So please make dua for her that she feels better. And shout out to the Whitfield family that are gathering for Thanksgiving in New Jersey. So we want to shout them out. We also want to shout out Sister Reed, who's a definite soldier. She's not going to be on the show today, brothers and sisters, but she took care of your brother today and bought seared roast chicken, fabulous, homemade potato salad, fabulous, collard greens with turkey bacon, fabulous. I am enjoying that as I watch my football throughout the day. So thanks so much, Reed. Want to give a shout out, of course, to the Bethel family down in Danville, Virginia. Want to shout out to my cousins Lisa, Earl, and Jason. You know, they're going through a transition. We'll let you know that love is all around, and we're pulling for you. And anything you need, you give us a call. All right. Want to shout out also Maxine K, my aunt, the proprietor of BeFinanciallyIndependent.com. She gave me a call today just to hear my voice. You know, just like old folks say, I need to lay some eyes on you. That's what she did with me, and she did it on the phone. So I appreciate it. Shout out to Mama San, who's heading over there to get her groove on in terms of Thanksgiving. And shout out to Jamie and Kendrick. I have not forgotten. I also want to shout out the Salahuddin family, Bilal and Sister Sonia Dalton. Salahuddin, hope you're doing well. Brother Eric Carter, hope you are loading up on food. I want to shout out my main man, Mark Candidate, better known as Jelani Locks. I hope that you're having a good and festive, if you will, Thanksgiving. And everybody else in the listening area, I hope you're doing well. All right. So let me get to this topic a little bit, because it's, you know, I have to claim some things about myself. You know, Thanksgiving for me, for a lot of years, particularly through my youth, I never really connected the terrible narrative of Native American oppression as I was eating my turkey and, God forbid, my ham back in the day, and macaroni and cheese and things like that. Because we centralized suffering, if you will. We centralized it where it was just us African Americans, and we're guilty of this. So let me just say this. We're guilty of this because the narrative is so strong that we can't, and let's also say that we were divided from history. that when Africans came here, there was not the presence, if you will, to have Native Americans around them saying, hey, this is our condition. And that's the way divide and conquer works in terms of, I want to say, cultural controlling methods that you don't let oppressed people know. Now, my point in fact is, if you think about it, here in the United States, we have a thriving community of African Americans, but they're not connected to Africa in a meaningful way. As a Muslim, we do talk about it, but this is religious. I can't tell you about some of the great kingdoms of Africa. I can't tell you where I'm from. Ironically, here in the United States, the Native Americans can tell you where they're from. That the history and narrative in the spoken and the written word is a bit of a misnomer because it's so spiritual that they do have that DNA. And I also marvel at the fact that parts of their spirituality do have to do with the unseen, the wind, the water, the spirit. And it's interesting because the people that conquer them do not deal with that. It's a very pragmatic and dogmatic type of oppression that they went through, whereby in the end, the idea of Native American existence had to be married to an understanding of white supremacy that, one, allowed them to continue to be dominated, and two, let people be comfortable. Let people be comfortable with these folks being dominated. I mentioned a couple shows back, I talked about movies involving Native Americans, and one of them was called Billy Jack, and it did have the white savior for the Native Americans. But it was in that movie and another movie that was a year later called Buck and the Preacher that Sidney Poitier really in this space, in this movie, Sidney Poitier and Harry Belafonte in this area represented to me that this thing was real and that we should really, really pay attention to it. I issued a challenge, and I don't think that mass ignorant any of these organizations really listen to my challenge, but I have to acknowledge that this year there was an impetus put on Native American existence, Native American presence, talking about their rights, beginning to talk about their history here in the United States, and I thought that was really encouraging. But we need to talk about it. I need to, my father, may Allah be pleased with him, my father really connected me or had me interested in Native American rights and things like that, because as a deputy director of personnel at National Institutes of Health, he would as a consultant go out to some of these reservations, if you will, and help set up health systems, because a lot of these reservations did not have health systems. And this is going into the mid to late 70s. Just think about it. They didn't have health systems. And now when you talk about Native American life, it does revolve around a heavy presence on reservations. But what are reservations? What is the anomaly of reservations in terms of United States history? Reservations in terms of United States history represent unfulfilled promises, broken contracts. The domination of Native Americans, particularly in the 1800s, has a lot to do with the fact that a lot of them were pushed off their land, and contractually, they signed away their land. Now, this is how difficult this is to kind of stomach. If you start thinking about that, it's like, how are you going to give them a contract when their first language is not English? When their spiritual center is not Christianity? And when they look at you as an oppressor, you can't make somebody sign something with a gun to the head or a gun to their wife's head or guns to their child's head and think that this is a somehow equal document. And it does happen amongst Native Americans. It has happened amongst, of course, African Americans, that the tilt, if you will, has always been built on the fact that our aggression, our threats, our intimidations are things that you need to be a part of the American system, which is a lot to stomach if you really think about it. That we have to do that in any colonialized country, whether it be India, whether it be Pakistan, whether it be Africa, and spaces like that, you will find that this is the same thing that happened. That a system is introduced that somehow is equal to or better than, or presented as equal to or better than the system that's pre-existing. That's number one. Then number two, the system that is pre-existing somehow has to be married to this level of intimidation, or this level of extortion, if you will, to make it viable. Like we go through this right here in the United States a lot. Religion, if you will. Does anyone know what Native American religion is? Yeah, exactly. Because the Lakotas and the Apaches and the Cherokees, they all had different representation in terms of, I want to say, relationships to their spirituality. And in the United States, here we have right now, believe me, this election just happened. You have people who are in accord to try to make the official religion of the United States Christianity, against all odds and against all laws. But you have to understand that that type of thinking is probably the type of thinking that pre-existed and was prevalent during the time of Native Americans. Now, let me throw this out. That not next year, but tomorrow, we all begin to understand the contributions. And this is one thing that I do get upset about. We don't talk about the contributions of Native Americans here in the United States, because it would, in many regards, indict us. It would make us hypocrites in the context of how we live our lives and how we believe that we progress. Thanksgiving is a holiday that is somehow devoid of Native Americans, but it brings in the Native Americans who are subservient to the idea of this prototype Christian holiday of giving and giving thanks and da-da-da. But what it doesn't give, brothers and sisters, is accountability. What it doesn't do is it doesn't hold people accountable. It doesn't reveal the truth in the context of how people came to be, which is an anathema of religion, because religion has the space whereby it takes you from one place and it moves you to another place. Let me say it again. It picks you up from one place and it moves you to another place. And the thing that's missing when we don't talk about that in regards to our Native American brothers and sisters is the fact that we're not regarding them as spiritually whole people. So we say our prayers, we give food, we are in the giving spirit of the Quran, the giving spirit of the Bible, the Torah. We're in the giving spirit, but we do not acknowledge the spiritual significance of the people who were there before us. You know, and I'm going to take a break here in a minute, but I think it's really important if we start doing the research. There's some great books about the first Thanksgiving, brothers and sisters, and it ain't as rosy as this, and it's not inclusive of a Black Friday. Black Friday for Native Americans was a totally different thing. So listen, we're going to take a small break. We're going to be back, and you know what I'm saying, talk a little bit more, and I'm going to let y'all go because I know y'all got turkey and some of y'all got ham, be honest. Turkey, ham, potato salad, rice, beans, collard greens, green beans, all that good stuff. So I'm not going to hold you from that. We'll be right back. Hey, babies. Welcome to Radio WCUC, Convenient Urgent Care, home of the smart patient. This is DJ What It Do. You know what time it is. It's the top of the hour, and the request lines are open. You know what you want to hear. I know what you want to hear. Operators are waiting.
I just got to hear, don't get the COVID.
Don't get the COVID. Put your mask back on. The Delta COVID, more contagious than before. Don't get the COVID. Go on and get the vaccine. You know that it can keep you safe, and your people living up in your space. Don't get the COVID. You need to wash your hands. The Delta COVID is more deadly than before. Don't get the COVID. Go on and get your vaccine. You know that it can keep you from dying. Don't leave your family all alone and crying. don't get the COVID.
We invite you to join our fight against COVID and against misinformation. It's time to listen to the doctors and trust the science.
When I think of people dying that don't have to die, it makes me sad. Now's the time to be sober. Together we can make this thing over. Let's fight the COVID. Convenient urgent care, home of the smart patient.
All right, we back. Got some brothers here. Shout out show family. Give a shout out to my brother Abdul Aziz. Wa alaikum assalam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, brother. I appreciate you, man. We just speaking on this thing. You know what's funny? All of this stuff just makes sense. And I love the shout out show and the people that I deal with that come to the shows, stage shows, comedy shows. Because it's funny because that audience is it's a particular type of intelligence that audience has. Like they'll allow you to speak on the mundane stuff, but they really do look for what is the difference in what you're saying, what everybody else is saying, you know, and I'm thinking a different way. I was saying this with my brother JT earlier today about documentaries. I was watching Mavis Staples' documentary, and I watched the documentary on Louis Armstrong. And I was saying that how musicians used to talk about Louis Armstrong, not understanding that this dude was a genius, that he played the lead horn. He was the inventor of the musical solo, and he sang. Guys like him, Henry Red Allen, they sang as well as played the horns. Side note. Also, Brother Eric, we gave you a shout out. Wa alaikum assalam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, man. Hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for joining the show. We're not going to hold people too long here today. I know folks got to eat. But let me just wrap up on this whole idea about acknowledging Native Americans, please. I told you a story a while back, fairly recently, about being at Marquette University and being homeless for about like 18 hours. And I talked about the gentleman who was homeless. We shared a bench. What I remember is that man had long hair and he was Native American. And I asked him about that. And he explained to me that the dredges of being in the United States had war on his family, on his culture, on his tribe, to the point that alcoholism was generational. They used to call it firewater, but alcoholism was generational. He said in the particular priming of Native American failure and oppression is something that he couldn't even encompass. He said literally that being homeless was easier in some regards than being on the reservation. I was like, wow. So I'm going to ask this, that we do our homework a little bit more, that we ask like every week, you know, every 2 weeks or so, let's find out what our Native American brothers and sisters are doing, because we're not going to find that through the media. You know, while we're talking on the show on the SOS, let's be honest, we don't really hear about them. You know, this is terrible, but on Chrome, they just had a thing acknowledging Native American art. And so I changed my face page for Native American art. And I'm like, this is so trivial. This is so patronizing that we're not talking about what are your stories about survival. What are the mores about being Native American in the land that's absent of whiteness? We don't hear those stories. The grandeur of Native American tribes and how they married and intermarried, and the everything from the hunt of the buffalo to surviving the winters. I need to hear that, because I need to do a better job of recognizing the grandeur and the contribution of these people. See, Thanksgiving, and I'll wrap here. Yeah, Thanksgiving is really a Thanksgiving to Native Americans, because when people came over here, the pilgrims, if you will, they starved to death. They starved to death. They didn't know how to hunt. They didn't know how to build anything. They didn't know the lay of the land. And who showed them? The Native Americans. But when we give thanks to people, thank God, as you should, but we don't thank those people. And it's a serious disease, if you will, an all too often occurrence that happens with the whole idea of thankfulness. Thankfulness has a couple elements, in my opinion. One thing that thankfulness has is history. It frames time. You have to say what you're thankful for. It has to start here now. It can go off into eternity, but it has to start here. If you say, I am thankful for, you'll find situations and words to fit into that scenario, whereby when you relay it to someone else, it makes sense. And it has a spiritual and emotional bond to it, if you will. But we don't do that enough. We don't do it enough. I am going to point the finger at me and say that I need to do more. I do have Native American friends, but they're friends. They're not my brothers and not my sisters because I haven't made the proper effort to find out where your people from, how are they doing, what do you need, and begin to lay the groundwork to be that brother and sister. Okay, everybody, we shorten it up today. I'm going to keep my word today. Thank you so much. Go back to eating your turkey, gobble, gobble, and on top of Thanksgiving, this Thanksgiving, please, let's acknowledge Native Americans. This is your brother, Preacher Moss. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I will see you on Monday, inshallah.